The day the letter arrived, Ethan Cole had exactly $12 in his bank account, a duffel bag of worn-out clothes, and memories he couldn't outrun. The former Navy SEAL who had survived combat zones and impossible missions now stood in front of a rusted gas station in the middle of nowhere, wondering how his life had collapsed so quietly. The paint peeled from the cracked walls. The fuel pumps looked like relics from another century. Weeds pushed through broken concrete as if nature itself was trying to erase the place from existence. And tied to one of the old support beams was a frail German shepherd with cloudy eyes and a coat dulled by time. That station, that dog, and a mystery buried beneath decades of dust were about to change everything. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the most broken chapters can lead to beautiful endings, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the smallest blessings come disguised as burdens. Ethan hadn't expected an inheritance. He barely remembered the distant uncle who had left it to him. The letter from a small-town lawyer simply stated that the property and everything on it now belonged to him. No savings. No hidden assets. Just a failing service station and an old dog named Rex. To most people, it would have felt like an insult. To Ethan, it felt like one more cruel joke from a life that had already taken too much. After leaving the military, the world had moved on without him. Job interviews ended awkwardly when he struggled to explain the years he'd spent in classified operations. Sleep was a stranger. Crowded rooms felt like battlefields. The only thing that still made sense was discipline, routine, and loyalty. And as he stood there staring at the dog, he recognized something familiar in Rex's tired but steady gaze. It was the look of someone who had seen too much and survived anyway. The small town surrounding the station barely noticed Ethan's arrival. It was the kind of place where people whispered from behind curtains but avoided eye contact in public. The service station sign creaked in the dry wind. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, swallowing sound and hope alike. Ethan could have sold the land for scrap value and walked away. But something about abandoning the dog felt wrong. So he stayed. The first nights were the hardest. Ethan slept on a dusty cot in the back office while Rex curled up beside him. The electricity worked only half the time. The water ran brown before it cleared. The fuel tanks were nearly empty. Yet every morning, Ethan rose before sunrise and began cleaning. He scraped old posters from the walls. He repaired cracked windows. He cleared vines that had swallowed the canopy roof. Rex followed him everywhere, moving slower than he once might have, but always watching. Money ran out quickly. Ethan sold his last valuable possession, a commemorative watch given to him after his final deployment, to buy cleaning supplies and basic tools. Some days no cars passed. Other days a single truck would stop, the driver looking skeptical before paying in crumpled bills. The town's mechanic told him quietly that no one believed the station would last another month. But Ethan was no stranger to impossible odds. Weeks passed. Small changes began to show. The sign was repainted. The pumps were polished. Ethan fixed the roof leak using salvaged metal sheets. He placed a bowl of fresh water outside for travelers and hung a small American flag by the door. Rex began to regain some strength, his coat shining faintly under careful grooming. The two of them formed a silent partnership built on shared resilience. Then came the night everything shifted. A storm rolled across the desert without warning. Thunder cracked like artillery fire, shaking the fragile structure. Lightning illuminated the station in violent flashes. Ethan lay awake, heart pounding as old memories clawed their way back. Rex began barking, not at the storm, but toward the far end of the property near an abandoned storage shed that Ethan hadn't yet explored. At first, Ethan tried to ignore it. The shed had been locked for decades. But Rex's barking grew frantic, urgent in a way that cut through the storm's chaos. Ethan grabbed a flashlight and followed the dog through sheets of rain. The shed door rattled in the wind. Rusted hinges screamed as Ethan forced it open. Inside, the air smelled of oil and rot. Old tools, broken crates, and stacks of yellowed newspapers filled the cramped space. Rex moved toward the back corner and began pawing at the dirt floor. Over and over, he dug, whining softly. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest. He fetched a shovel and started digging. The ground was harder than expected. After nearly an hour of relentless effort, the shovel struck metal. Ethan froze. Carefully clearing the soil, he uncovered a large steel hatch embedded beneath the shed. It was sealed tight, edges reinforced with heavy bolts. His pulse quickened. This was no random storage compartment. Someone had hidden this deliberately. The storm raged on as Ethan wrestled with the bolts, his muscles straining. When the final one gave way, he lifted the hatch to reveal a narrow ladder descending into darkness. Most people would have called the authorities. But Ethan had lived too long with unanswered questions to walk away now. He secured a rope around his waist, clipped on his old tactical flashlight, and began the descent. The underground chamber was surprisingly large. Concrete walls lined the space, and rows of metal filing cabinets stood against them. In the center sat several heavy-duty crates stamped with dates from the late 1980s. Dust covered everything like a thick blanket. It felt like stepping into a forgotten chapter of history. Ethan opened the nearest crate. Inside were stacks of sealed documents, maps, and folders marked with government insignias. His breath caught as he recognized references to covert energy research projects and mineral exploration contracts. He wasn't an expert in finance, but he knew enough to understand the implications. The land beneath the station had once been surveyed for rare earth minerals, materials essential for advanced technology, military systems, and renewable energy. He opened another crate. This one contained bearer bonds and certificates tied to international resource rights. Even outdated, the paperwork hinted at staggering value. As he scanned the numbers, his heart pounded louder than the storm above. Preliminary estimates suggested that the mineral deposits beneath this property could be worth over $200 million in today's market. $200 million. Ethan sank onto a crate, overwhelmed. The junk station wasn't junk at all. It was sitting on a buried treasure that had been forgotten, perhaps intentionally hidden during a failed corporate takeover decades earlier. His uncle, a quiet and reclusive man, must have known. Instead of selling out to powerful interests, he had kept the secret safe. Rex's barking echoed faintly from above, grounding Ethan in the present. The dog hadn't just been restless. He had remembered. Animals sense what humans ignore. Rex had uncovered more than a hatch, he had uncovered hope. The following days were a blur of cautious research and legal consultations. Ethan contacted a reputable attorney in the nearest city, presenting copies of the documents. The lawyer's initial skepticism quickly turned to stunned silence. Independent geological surveys confirmed it, the mineral deposits were real and extraordinarily valuable. But with value came danger. Rumors spread quickly once preliminary filings were made. Strangers began driving past the station at odd hours. Black SUVs parked at a distance. Offers arrived in the mail, aggressive buyouts far below the property's true worth. Ethan recognized the tactics. Pressure. Intimidation. Isolation. He refused to fold. Instead, he chose a different path. Rather than selling to the highest bidder, Ethan negotiated a partnership ensuring that mining operations would be environmentally responsible and that a significant percentage of profits would fund local infrastructure, veterans rehabilitation programs, and community development. The town that had once ignored him now looked at him with a mix of awe and gratitude. He rebuilt the station not as a fuel stop, but as a community center and veterans outreach hub. The old pumps were preserved as a reminder of humble beginnings. A small museum inside displayed the history of the land and the story of the discovery. Rex became a local legend. Children would visit just to pet the old hero dog who had dug up a fortune. Money changed Ethan's circumstances, but it didn't change his core. He built affordable housing for struggling families. He funded scholarships for military children. He ensured that no veteran in the county would ever sleep on the streets again. Each decision felt like stitching together pieces of his own fractured heart. And through it all, Rex stayed by his side. Time, however, is undefeated. One quiet evening, as the desert sun painted the sky in gold and crimson, Rex lay beside Ethan outside the renovated station. His breathing was shallow, his eyes peaceful. Ethan rested a hand on the dog's graying head, remembering the storm, the digging, the moment everything changed. Rex passed away gently that night. The entire town attended the small memorial held under the canopy that had once been covered in vines. Ethan placed a simple plaque near the shed that read, "Rex, loyal friend, true hero." It wasn't the money that made the story extraordinary. It was the reminder that faithfulness, even in forgotten places, can uncover miracles. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a second right now to comment the word loyalty below. Let's fill the comments with a reminder that faithfulness still matters in this world. In the years that followed, Ethan often stood at the edge of the property at sunrise, listening to the quiet hum of responsible mining operations in the distance and the laughter of children near the community center. He would think back to the day he arrived with $12 and no direction. The inheritance that had seemed like a curse had been a gift beyond measure. But more than the $200 million, more than the success or recognition, it was the companionship of an old dog that had saved him. Rex had given him purpose when he was drifting. He had forced him to stay when leaving would have been easier. In uncovering a hidden fortune, the dog had also uncovered Ethan's capacity to hope again. Sometimes life buries its greatest blessings beneath layers of disappointment and decay. Sometimes what looks like junk is simply waiting for someone brave enough to dig a little deeper. And sometimes, the one who leads you to your miracle walks on 4 tired legs, asking for nothing more than your loyalty in return. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of someone you've lost, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more stories that warm the heart. Your engagement helps keep these messages of hope alive. Because in the end, it wasn't just a broke Navy SEAL who inherited a junk station and an old dog. It was a broken man who found healing beneath the dirt, and discovered that the greatest treasures in life are often the ones that love us unconditionally.